What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Just an Insight podcast. As always, my name is Tim Birkbeck. I am a writer. I am a lover of films, music, and wrestling. But most importantly of all, I am your body and vehicle through this podcast. Now, regular listeners of the Just an Insight podcast are probably thinking, wait a minute, this isn't Tuesday. Why is the shout out today? Simple answer, as of now, I am on holiday. I'm actually, as soon as I upload this episode onto Facebook and yada yada yada, all the different platforms to promote it, I'm getting in my car, driving to Bristol to see some friends, staying there until Tuesday, and then we're heading over to mainland Europe, stopping off at a couple of places, going to Bruges, going to Cologne, and then we are going to Fluff Festival, which I'm super excited about. Like, it's a festival that I've wanted to go to for years. So yeah, I'm super psyched, and City Caterpillar are playing, which is just mind-blowing because they're a band I never thought I'd get to see. Heaven in Our Arms is another band I'm super stoked to see. I've actually been listening to loads of the bands I haven't heard of today that are playing, and there's just so many good bands, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. So yeah, that's why I'm not going to be here for 2 weeks. So I thought I'd get this episode out before I go, so there's not just a massive gap whilst I'm away. I am hoping to catch some of the bands while I'm at Fluff to record a couple of episodes, so might kind of have a bumper edition when we come back. I'll wait and see how I'll do time-wise. It might just be a case of drip feeding things through. It depends on if I can actually interview anyone. We'll see how it goes anyway. But as far as my usual weekly roundup goes, there's not really a whole lot to report because obviously the last episode went out on Tuesday, so only a few days passed in that time. But I did watch the film Nerve. I was flicking through Netflix the other day. I wanted something that was a bit light, and I saw that. It was a film that I remember when the trailer was going around. There was something that I thought looked quite interesting, but I wasn't going to sort of rush out and see it. So I thought give it a go, and it was pretty decent. I'm going to go into a bit more detail of it in the film section after the chat with this week's guest. So that will take out one of the trailers instead. But yeah, thought I'd see that. But apart from that, nothing else really to report to you guys. I live a pretty boring life. But I'm going to jump straight into this week's episode because I've still got a little bit of packing to do. And as I say, I want to get this out before I go. So my guest on this week's episode is frontman of the horror punk band Energy, Jason Tankrally, better known as Tank. It was really cool to have Tank on the show, as Energy's a band that I got into when I was back in uni. Kind of came across them because they were originally signed to Bridge 9, and at the time I just loved everything the Bridge 9 records were putting out, but they kind of fell off my radar a little bit. I think maybe with a lot of kind of people in the hardcore element it was the same, but I got to see them supporting Creeper earlier in the year, and I completely forgot how good they were, and kind of got back into them ever since. So yeah, it was really cool to have Tank on the show. We get into the band's longevity and how things have kind of only just started to pay off for them now, but they're kind of riding this wave of momentum at the moment, and they are coming back to the UK later on this month, so I will talk about the dates again after the chat with Tank. But we'll get straight into it. So for now, please sit back, enjoy the chat that I have with Tank, and I'll see you on the other side. So, joining me on the Just an Insight podcast this week is Energy frontman Jason Tankrally, aka Tank. Tank, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well. Very hot here in the UK at the moment. It's probably nothing compared to the weather you have in the States, but everyone over here is dying of the heat at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty hot over here. Yeah, that's for sure. But I've been hearing a lot about the weather and stuff over there too.
Yeah.
From all the people I met. last time around.
I think that's the thing. And as soon as we get the slightest bit of sun here, everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's hotter than the sun!" So
Yeah.
we go to the extremes of it. But yeah, obviously, the show is called Just an Insight, and obviously, Energy's been a band that's been going for 11 years now.
Yes.
So, if you can just run me through a brief history of Energy and give us an insight of how the band came and how it is to the point we're at today.
Yeah, sure. I was like 19 or 20, and this was in like 2005 ish.
Yeah.
And I was trying to start a band. I was trying to get musicians together. Everybody I knew was doing hardcore, like hardcore music.
Yeah.
And we wanted to stand out and be more of a punk band, but like still have that hardcore influence. And like, well, I wanted that, and I couldn't find people who really shared the same vision for a band as me. So it took me a little while, but once I finally did, could meet halfway with some people. I met the lineup that recorded our first album,
Yeah.
Punch the Clock, in 2006. And then it's been a rotating lineup of musicians since then.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, I mean, I could run you through, like, every chapter of the band.
Well,
it could
yeah.
go on forever, but it has been 11 years.
Well, because obviously one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is my kind of my love of like alternative music kind of started through hardcore and stuff, and obviously the Boston hardcore scene is something that every hardcore kid kind of knows about. So for you kind of growing up in that and wanting to do something different, was it quite difficult initially?
Well, like I said, initially finding the people who I'd pitch this idea to them, and they'd be like, "No, I'm not gonna do that," like,
Yeah.
or that kind of thing, because it was like different. We were thought of, like, people would tell me all the time back then, "You guys are a real breath of fresh air in this otherwise stagnating sound of a hardcore scene
Yeah.
that we have going here," and it's just once we got in a room together, and it was people who all shared the same sort of vision for the same type of bands, it came pretty naturally. It wasn't always easy playing shows, I remember.
Because you put on bills with a lot of kind of like the hardcore bands in the earlier days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was definitely, there were definitely some shows there where people were expecting another band to come on, a band to come on that they could, mosh to and go crazy to, and then we would just come on, and they'd never heard of us.
Yeah.
And I start just like actually singing.
Yeah.
And I've seen the audience so many times back then just cross their arms, like, they'll just their like jaws drop. They're just like, "What is this?" Like not in like a good way.
Yeah.
Like in like an I don't understand this kind of way. So it's I don't know, but then again, we've had some of our most passionate and intense moments at shows like ever in the hardcore community. So it can go either way with a band like.
And for you, what kind of what influenced you before obviously Energy kind of became a band? Because I think the obvious kind of ones that people draw comparisons are obviously like the Misfits, AFI, Alkaline Trio. But were they the bands that you maybe not aspired to be like, but that you kind of thought there's a loophole in the Boston/Massachusetts scene that I want to fill with this type of music?
I don't think I thought of it that consciously, like, oh, I need to be the band that fills this hole. How come nobody's doing this?
Yeah.
I just kind of, I grew up listening to the Misfits and Bad Religion and Dag Nasty and Minor Threat and AFI and just stuff like that. And I wanted to just do that. So, I mean, we did it, or at least we tried to.
Yeah.
And, it seemed to work out. I don't know.
And my first sort of hearing of you was obviously the release of Invasions of the Mind, which
okay.
which obviously came out through Bridge 9. So again, the hardcore kid in me kind of just basically liked anything that Bridge 9 were putting out at the time. So
I was the same way. I was really I felt really like honored to be part of their roster when they signed us. I was like 22 or 23, and I loved everything they put out. And I was like, oh my god, they want to put out my band. That's amazing.
But when that record kind of came out, because obviously the kind of history of Bridge 9 is in sort of hardcore and stuff. So what was the initial sort of reaction to a band like Energy that's not quote unquote the typical band that would be on Bridge 9? What was the reaction like for you guys? Was it positive, or were people kind of like, whoa, well, why are these guys signed to Bridge 9?
It was definitely the latter.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I heard some really kind words and stuff, when the album first came out, but it could be because it's me, but it felt like it was mostly negative, and especially people who heard Punch the Clock.
Yeah.
And then we transitioned into a little less poppy, a little bit more serious texture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of a thing, with way more serious lyrics and everything. And I remember people were like really mad that we changed our sound so early on in our career and all this stuff. And a lot. If you just, I mean, I hate to like slag myself like this, but like if you just Google Energy Invasions of the Mind, like almost nothing but bad reviews show up.
Oh, really?
From the year it came out.
That's because I really like when that came out, because as I say, I was like Have Heart are the band that I've absolutely loved. They're my favourite band. So
they gave us a really like a shout out early on in our career. I remember during like the MySpace days.
Yeah.
They made some post on their like MySpace.
Well, I think that's how I kind of came about you guys, because I think they like, speaking of MySpace, I think you were in their like top 8 friends thing, and I was like,
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
So I was like, oh yeah, I'll check out these guys, and obviously listening to kind of bands like AFI and things, I resonated with what you were doing. So when the album dropped, I absolutely loved it. So it's interesting to hear that was the kind of reaction you had.
A lot of people. Sorry. A lot of people over the years have. I mean, that album seems to have aged well.
Yeah.
Like it's aging better than it. Like it's doing better. Not like sales wise, but like it's doing better reception wise.
Yeah.
Now than it did then. So I mean, I'm glad people are like coming around to it now. So that's cool. I don't know.
But obviously, you briefly touched upon it then. Obviously, because again, I'm not sure if it was just me kind of changing my musical taste, but after Invasions in the Mind, I kind of wavered in what I was listening to. But for me, it kind of felt like you guys disappeared for a little bit, and you obviously said that there was the revolving kind of door of musicians and things. So was it a case of basically fine tuning what you had to get to where you are now? Because obviously now you're putting music out quite regularly again. So has it been a slow process to get to where you are now?
That's good. That's a nice thing to hear somebody say, that we're putting music out regularly again. It's good to hear somebody else saying that back at me. Because you're right. There were long stretches where nothing was happening. Well, when we parted ways with Bridge 9, I also in turn parted ways with a lot of the members. Like they quit, and I was kind of left without a band for a while. So I've been spending the last like however many years like basically writing songs and releasing EPs and stuff like that on my own, in hopes, like all this time it was just in hopes of getting a solid live lineup that would tour again, and it seemed like quite a pipe dream, but this past fall of 2016 I got the right guys behind me, and we started just doing stuff regularly again, and it's awesome.
And something that I read about is obviously during that, and you mentioned there was obviously you during that kind of down period, quote unquote, that you were still kind of writing, and that you almost kind of became the only writer of the band. So,
Yeah.
what kind of throughout the kind of whole sort of career of the band, what's sort of influenced you from a musical standpoint and lyrically as well? Because listening to your lyrics, they're quite. I find them quite interesting because with a lot of lyricists, I find you can pick up on what they're trying to say, but with you, I find it's almost kind of hidden behind what you're singing about, and I like that because it's kind of layered. So
Thank you.
So what kind of influences you?
Lyrically,
Yeah.
like now.
Well, through now and sort of throughout history as well.
I'd say it started off. I mean, I've always been into writing since I was like a little kid, and I would always just write little things. But I remember I really started like writing lyrics in my late teens or whatever. But it started off of just reading other bands' lyrics and getting the gist of it.
Yeah.
And then, but now it's evolved basically now into I just try and word things the way I word things, and they're definitely almost always it's a metaphor for something else.
Yeah,
it's not literally what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I tend to hide behind those kinds of things and let people interpret the lyrics for themselves.
But do you kind of do you have like any sort of themes or anything that you follow, or is it just sort of what you're kind of going through personally, or things that are going on around you, or is it sort of a combination of everything?
I'd say it can be a combination of everything, but it's mostly me reflecting on my own pain and sorrows and stuff, and or just like emotions in general. But I mean, I have looked outwardly. It's not exclusively introspective.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's mostly me examining my own mind and stuff. So.
And you kind of mentioned, obviously, when Invasions of the Mind came out, that people were kind of saying that you'd changed your sound so early on. But I think throughout your career, energy has changed with every single record that has come out, and even listening to the new single, A Prayer for Rain, I still think that's completely different to the Witching Hour, which is still like quite a short space of time. So was that?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I'm always just writing all over the place.
But is that kind of from record to record? Has that been conscious that you've wanted to kind of change things up? Because I think, as I said, as much as I loved Invasions of the Mind, like if you take a song like Pet Sematary, that is for me that is a pop song. Like, no, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because it's got a catchy chorus that you can't stop singing. Whereas, as you say, Invasions of the Mind has kind of got that more of a punch from a punk kind of aspect. So, is that a conscious thing from your side?
No. I mean, that's the way that I write is everything from Apparition Sound and forward. Everything before that is really me collaborating with other people and just organically coming up with sounds and everything like that. So as long as I'm working with my producer, Chris, we just have this unspoken like way of doing things in the studio that I don't know. I mean, I never think to myself, I'm going to make this kind of record or I'm going to write this kind of song even. I just try and write songs and then put them all together. And yeah, like you said, even those two songs are very drastically different. Like, we recorded them at the same time, and it was very like, all right, let's listen to this one, then let's listen to that one, and they sound like they should be on two different records. But like, so many like so many of our. That's what I thought about Apparition Sound at first. I was like, well, geez, these are like 7 or 8 pretty different sounding songs from one another, and for the most part, I was like, is this even going to sound like a cohesive like album or like release?
Yeah.
But I think having my producer Chris actually like record all of the songs, it gives it that uniform sound that ties everything together.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I wanted to sort of talk about the longevity of the bands, and you obviously said that there was periods where you didn't have a band. Essentially, it was just you. So was that quite? Was there ever a point in the 11 years that Energy has been going that you kind of felt, why am I still doing this? Why am I continuing? Or has it just always been the drive and passion behind it that you thought, I still need to put music out there?
Honestly, it sounds like both. It would be one day I would feel the real drive and passion to get the band back together, get back on the road, like this, pipe dream, what it felt like at the time. It definitely felt like that. Like I was really like motivated some days, but then other days I would like legitimately consider like making a proper breakup of the band. And start a new project or something like that. But something in me just told me to keep going with the songs I've made over the past however many years, and I'm glad that I did, because I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Like doing that. Like I wouldn't be going to the UK in a few months.
And
or in a month, right?
Yeah. And obviously because the thing I find quite interesting with you guys is you've been as under the umbrella of Energy has been a band for 11 years, but I think a lot of people are only just kind of now coming round to who you are, what you're all about. So for you personally, how has the journey in the 11 years kind of kept you fresh and kind of kept the music fresh as well?
It's the only thing that truly makes me happy in life, like really, like a thing, is music. It's just the only thing that's been there for me my whole life, so I'm just fixated on it 24/7. It's not even like I don't even have to. It's like an effortless type of thing. Like I'm just like obsessing over it like 24/7. So it's it's not very difficult for me to become very passionate about the band immediately.
And as I mentioned, like a lot of people that are kind of especially in the last sort of year or so here in the UK, have kind of started to get more of a buzz around you. So is that kind of validated that the 10 years you've put in prior have paid off, and that now things are starting to snowball? Yeah,
absolutely. I've received so much like anonymous discouragement and just not anonymous discouragement, just people outright telling me to quit and all this stuff, and that I just really negative things, and to just continue trying to be headstrong, writing songs, recording them, releasing them, and just doing it, and then finally finding an audience over there in the UK that actually responded positively to it, like overwhelmingly positive to it. It's the best feeling in the world. That was like one of the best things that's ever happened to me, was that last tour in the UK. And I just need to thank Creeper again for offering to take us out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was that the first time you'd been over here?
Yes, it was.
So again, obviously, in the 11 years, so other bands would have kind of been over here a couple of times, sort of thing. So was it just a case of circumstances that nothing ever presented itself, or? Yeah,
basically, nothing ever presented itself. I don't remember any UK tour offers ever coming in before. Yeah, it's just we went to Europe, like went to Germany and a few other countries, but we never went to the UK ever. So yeah, I think it was just circumstantial.
Okay. I will talk about the tour that you did with Creeper in a moment, but before I move on, I just want to talk about kind of the aesthetics of the band because
Sure.
again, when I kind of first came about you guys, instantly the logo was something that I was drawn to, but the artwork of you guys was again very reminiscent of old school AFI, which was something when I was in school I absolutely
Oh, yeah.
loved. So I was drawn to it straight away. But obviously, again through the records, that's kind of grown and developed with the band, and it's
Hmm.
you've kind of got this identity through artwork. So is that something that you put a lot of thought into, or is it just the way that the band's come that you feel that it fits with what you put out musically?
It's definitely something we put a lot, well, I put a lot of thought into. Um, Me and our artist George, we brainstorm back and forth, and I usually try to come up with some kind of a concept, like a vague concept for him to work with, and it's very like he has a very like Tim Burton. It's like a Goosebumps book cover
Yeah,
type of like artwork style that I really like, and it just I feel it represents our like aesthetic like very well. Like that type of imagery is what the sounds would look like.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's what I try to make the album cover, or I try to have him make the album cover look like how it sounds. If that
yeah.
makes any sense? I don't know. Like it's definitely not just like a on a whim kind of thing. I think about it very much so.
I know I keep mentioning it, but what was kind of like the kind of Misfits AFI sort of aesthetic? Was that what influenced you to kind of go along that route, or was it
Yeah.
just coincidence?
No, yeah, it's absolutely. They were a huge influence. Misfits and AFI, those two bands.
Yeah.
They were the bands that I felt the most connected to.
Hmm.
And for some reason, yeah, that aesthetic and that imagery and just that feeling that those two bands give you was something that I've never felt since. Like nothing as powerful as that.
Yeah,
So I just was drawn towards that type of direction, like or drawn in that direction because of them, and like loving it as a teenager and all this stuff. It's just like I've always said to myself, like, would the 15-year-old version of me be like excited about the music I'm making?
yeah,
Like and like what and the band I'm in and the musician I am today, and I try to keep that in mind when I'm creating or doing anything like that. Like I want to excite the 15-year-old inside me. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like
And out of all the artworks you've done, have you got a particular favourite at all, or do you like
out
each
of
as
all
such?
of them,
Yeah.
that is really hard because there are so many. I mean, George has done like single artwork. He's done EPs, and we have another artist, Bill Hauser, who did our earlier work, and I mean, there's just so many. Either Invasions of the Mind or like Apparition Sound, or I don't know. I want to say like another Yesterday artwork. Really, it's hard to tell. George is just so good at what he does.
Yeah, that's cool. As I said, I wanted to obviously talk about the UK tour you did with Creeper. And I think it might just be because again I've listened to you guys for years, and then obviously Creeper. I've got a weird relationship with Creeper. So basically, Will and Ian, I've known for years. I used to put on their little sort of hardcore bands back in the day.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they started this band and things just completely blew up. It was absolutely out of nowhere.
Mhm.
But I think that you two kind of are almost like a match made in heaven in a way, because I think that you're both very similar aesthetically, both very similar musically. So before the actual tour started, had you kind of were you aware of them? Because I know in the UK now they're massive, but they've only been going. I think it's just under 2 years. So were you aware of their music before they kind of approached you to do the tour?
I wasn't aware of their music, but I had talked to Will, like, because he was a fan of Energy for like years prior.
Yeah.
And I had talked to him online, I believe. Like we both sort of vaguely remember talking, but we can't really remember it. But the no, I'd never heard them. I got an offer to open for them. In July of 2016, I think, and it was just like a complete in the like I had no idea what they were going to sound like. I just saw their logo and I was like, oh, they're probably right up our alley.
Yeah.
And I checked them out. I'm like, this sounds like a pretty good show for us to hop on. And then I saw what they were all about and that they had like a look and like a sound and an aesthetic, and I was like, this would really be like, before I could even process the thought though, Will was like, have you ever been over to the UK? Like, I'm such really into your band and I want to bring you guys over to the UK. And I was like, before I could even like think about like touring, like before I could even process the thought of like, oh, this would be a good band to tour with, Will already offered to tour
Yeah.
the tour. Like, he was like so quick on that. And I used to do like a blog online where I just complained about touring because I was like younger and miserable.
Yeah.
And he said he used to read it like every day. Like, I would do this daily blog, and apparently he used to read it, and I would write about how much I hated touring, and he said that's why he didn't ask us to come over sooner.
How bizarre!
because of my blog, which I totally understand. If I read that, I would be like, this person never wants to tour again.
Yeah.
But when he mentioned it, I was like, yes, absolutely yes. I was like, it's just over time like I said, I wanted to get the band off the ground again and start touring.
And if we go into the shows themselves a little bit, how was it being in front of a different audience for the first time? And because as you mentioned previously, the reaction was really good. So was it kind of almost a thought of why hadn't we done this sooner? Yeah,
pretty much. I think that Creeper's fan base were just very receptive, and they're just like really willing to check out a new band. Yeah, but I mean, it was like mind blowing just going over there, and especially, I mean, obviously during the show, just watching everybody react positively, but then afterwards, it was like I'd never experienced more positive feedback in my life than even on the first night of the tour in Manchester, I think.
I'm going to guess what your favourite show is, because I was there when the moment happened. but was there any particular standouts for yourself?
Which one do you think it was?
I'm going to go with Southampton.
Yeah, that's the one. Why'd you guess that
one? Maybe because you did a certain proposal.
Yeah. Yeah, I proposed to my girlfriend Megan at that show, and she said yes. And it was this big moment of the evening. But the show was also like a really good show too, so it was because it was the hometown show for Creeper and everything like that. But I mean, that show was just like pretty much because I was actually stressed out all day about just random stuff building up to it, because I knew I was going to do that later. And pretty much from the moment I walked out on stage, and all through the night, it was just nothing but positive, like, good feelings, and like, I don't know, it was just like a really good show.
Yeah. Well, because for me personally, obviously, aside from your proposal, which I think kind of took a lot of people by surprise, but was a really awesome moment. But
Thank you.
I hadn't actually seen Creeper since their very first show in a smaller venue in Southampton. So to see them like explode on that scale, I think for a lot of people who had been there from that first show were obviously still following them through, and obviously the whole thing with the Callous Heart now is just kind of exploded. But I do want to talk to you about the proposal quickly. Did you plan to do it on that day, or was it something that you'd had planned to do whilst you were in the UK and then it just felt right at that moment?
It was something I had planned to do in the UK. I didn't know which date I was going to do it on. I kind of asked, I was like, should I do it on... Like, I asked Nick, our guitarist. He was the only person that knew the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Because I had him hold the ring because I knew that... Because Megan basically, like, holds my hand and makes sure that everything goes accordingly.
Yeah.
I'd be lost somewhere still in the UK. But, yeah, I had Nick hold on to it because I knew she'd be going through my stuff, like, the whole tour, and I didn't want her to accidentally find it and whatever. But, I decided on Southampton because I was going back and forth between London and Southampton.
Yeah.
Because I thought London is the biggest show. There's going to be the most amount of people there. But I thought Southampton's going to be the more intimate hometown show where everybody's like feeling good already, and it's like a very loving atmosphere. Everybody's like families were there.
Yeah.
I think Creeper's family was there, whatever, and it just felt like a more appropriate setting.
Yeah.
And once I decided it was Southampton, it was just like, that's it.
Yeah, that's cool. And obviously, you've mentioned obviously the reception that you guys had was sort of beyond what you kind of thought it would be. So was that why you've kind of now decided to come back so quickly?
Yes. There was booking agency approached us like while we were over there.
Okay.
In London. Yeah, like in London during our not during our performance, but after our performance.
That would have been weird if they ran on stage.
And a guy walks on stage. He's just like, "Hey, I've got a proposal for you." He was like, "Would you like to come back?" I was like, "Yes." So we knew we were coming back before we even left.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and which was amazing. I was like, I thought this was just going to be like a one-off experience that would just hopefully be beneficial. And it seems to be leading to a lot of good things.
Mm. And I've obviously mentioned the kind of comparisons with yourselves and Creeper, but I think in general the kind of quote-unquote sort of horror punk sort of genre is kind of coming back to fruition in a little bit. So do you think that that's why now people are being more kind of receptive of you, being more aware of you as well, and that has afforded you this opportunity to come back to the UK so soon?
I think that if that's true, if horror punk and like darker, gloomier aesthetic bands, if that like is coming back, then that's definitely why. Like without a doubt, that's why people are more receptive to us. I mean, if that is true.
Yeah, I just think I don't know, it might just be me picking up on things, but I think there's, especially here in the UK, like because the buzz that is around Creeper at the moment, we are seeing a few kind of copycat bands trying to kind of emulate, and so I think that's maybe why that I think that it's kind of on the up.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing I didn't change the name of the band or do anything, or else people would think we were copying them.
But obviously coming over here for this time, sort of the end of July and August time, you're obviously playing smaller venues, playing cities that you didn't play when you were with Creeper. So for you, what are you looking forward to most this time round?
I'm just looking forward to seeing how well we can do on our own. I don't know. Like, obviously we were put in front of such large audiences because of Creeper. But the thing I'm looking forward to the most is hopefully seeing a lot of people like turn up at these shows and stuff, because it just means that that's the definitive way of like solidifying what you're worth.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's like, you know, who is coming out to see you?
Yeah.
You know, like specifically you. So I'm looking forward to like seeing the results of the last tour.
Yeah. And are there any particular cities that you're looking forward to going to, or is it just take it as it comes?
Yeah, just take it as it comes. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I just want to obviously touch upon kind of like newer material and sort of the next steps for the band. So obviously, with the announcement of the tour, you obviously released the new single, "A Prayer for Rain." Previously, you'd released "The Witching Hour."
Yes.
So obviously, that's kind of the next step. Is obviously the new record going to be coming out. But what can people expect from the new record? And two, what's for you, as I mentioned before, like it now feels that you're kind of a continual sort of thing that constantly putting out new material. So do you kind of once this is out, is it sit back and take it all in, or is it right move on to the next project?
Well, nobody ever actually said that there was a new album coming out.
Oh, okay. I've just made that assumption then.
But let's is new music, and it has been recorded, but it's not a large body of work. Let's just put it that way. But there is new music that there'll be like a release, including the 2 previous singles and stuff. But what was the actual question though?
Just sort of once this next body of work is out, do you kind of sit back and take everything in, or is it a case of right, let's start writing for the next project?
I'm always writing little ideas and stuff, so I have like an idea, like a song savings bank in my head and unwritten voice memos on my phone. And but I mean, when you're on tour, when you're playing, like when you're literally out there on the road right then and there, to me that is an impossibility to write while you're on the road. So you have to just sit there and take it all in when you're on tour. But when I'm not on tour, it's basically I work well under pressure. So if you tell me a record needs to be done by blank, whatever date, it'll get done. It just will. But if you just leave me to my own devices, I might not write you a new record for like 5 or 6 years. So now that things are actually like starting to churn like a machine within the band, where like we've got so far we've like gone from like thing to thing to thing. Like there hasn't been like a dead stop for us yet. I'm hoping. So if that continues, the next goal after this new EP will be to write an LP, and hopefully somebody will say some date at me that will scare the hell out of me that I'll have to write a whole album by. And then that's how it'll happen, but it'll happen. And I'm always happy with the stuff that I write last minute. I don't know why. There's a new song that we have that I seriously wrote the lyrics like while I was in the studio recording vocals for other songs. Yeah. So, and I like the lyrics. Like I really love the lyrics a lot in this song, and I wrote them very last minute. So it's just that spontaneity of like writing is really cool. I don't know.
And I just want to quickly kind of do a quick comparison. So obviously the tour that you did with Creeper was the first time you've been in the UK. But obviously you've been playing in the States sort of pretty much for the whole time that you've been a band, with a few gaps here or there. As you mentioned, you've been to Europe. But from comparing the States to the UK, what's the difference in the reception that you get?
We get a reception. There's people clap when our songs end. People care in the UK. But when we just played a show in Boston, our hometown show.
Yeah.
And it was not pretty.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah, like, but then again, we just went to South Carolina, which is in the United States, obviously, and we just did great there.
Yeah.
We actually sold out the venue twice over.
Oh, wow.
Which is illegal, but weird. But not to blow up your spot via podcast, but yeah, I didn't say what venue it was. Who cares? But but yeah. Other than that, though, it's completely hit or miss in the U.S., but the U.K., every single show felt like a complete success.
Yeah. So would you say that it's a bit of a tougher audience in the States, or is it just... Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I can tell you that from 10 years of experience right off the bat. Yes.
Obviously, we've kind of mentioned the tour and writing new records and new materials and so forth. But what else is in store for the future of Energy?
I hope just a lot of great songs that I haven't written yet. I hope.
Yeah.
That's just really what I care about. Is I just want to write as many songs as I can that I'm proud of, that I feel like represented some corner of my mind properly, like the right way. And I want to leave my brain and my heart and my soul, I want to leave that imprint behind, like, when I die.
Yeah.
But that's really all I actually care about. But like, logistically, I want to tour, write, record, tour, write, just basically just do that forever.
Yeah. And how we'd like to end the show is to kind of ask what your favourite song is, but with a bit of a twist. So, for you as a performer, what is the favourite Energy song that you like to play live, and why?
Oh man, jeez, that's hard. That's difficult. Definitely not any of the ones where I have to sing really high. I'm so out of breath all the time. It might be They, like the show closing song that we did over there. Just because I really enjoy the dynamics of how it starts off quiet, and I can just any song with a lot of dynamics, I think, where it's quiet, then it gets loud, and then it gets even more intense, and then there's a climax, or basically songs that have a lot of ups and downs, and rooms for me to actually breathe and not just completely hyperventilate up there. But
perfect. Brilliant. Tank, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a quick chat with me.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Cheers, man. Take care.
All right, thanks. You too.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
So there we have it, folks. Thanks again to Tank for taking the time to talk to me about the band. It was really cool to kind of hear the story of Energy and why it kind of took them so long to come to the UK in the first place, and just why they still love doing what they're doing. But yeah, thanks again to Tank. As mentioned, they're back over here in the UK at the end of the month, and they're touring with a band called Miss Vincent from Southampton, which is just down the road from me. Personally, haven't heard of them, but if they're touring with Energy, they've got to be pretty good. Tour starts on July 29th in Manchester and goes all the way through to August 9th in London. As always, you can keep up to date with the band over on all social media platforms. On Facebook, it's / the band Energy. On Twitter, it's @thisenergy, and on Instagram, it's thisenergy, all one word. Right, so as mentioned at the top of the show, going to go into our new little film segment that I've introduced, and as mentioned, I watched the film Nerve this week, so I'm just going to play the trailer first before we get into the discussion.
Welcome to Nerve, a game like Truth or Dare minus the truth. Watchers pay to watch, players play to win.
Is this legal? Life is passing you by. You need to take a risk once in a while. kiss a stranger for 5 seconds?
Apparently, the Watchers want me to team up with you. Stay. Let's see what else happens.
Is that me? Do you know where I can find this dress?
You look very pretty. Let's go, come on.
Not jumps.
Look, we don't have a choice.
Technically, it just says we have to leave the store.
Big fan.
Dollar dollar bill, y'all.
Hold on, I'm just doing the Y in Daddy.
What?
He's kidding.
Let's have a little bit of anarchy.
What the hell is going on?
Watchers, they stole our identities.
Officer, I need help.
We don't do this. The only way out is to win.
Let's go!
Okay, so the film stars Emma Roberts and Dave Franco, and they're immersed in this weird like social media game where watchers kind of dare them to do things for money, and each dare kind of gets progressively more nuts and more daring, quote unquote, and it's all streamed through a kind of Periscope-y type app on the people's phones. It's kind of like an episode of Black Mirror, but just more Hollywood, if I'm totally honest. I thought the concept of the film was really cool, but the execution was not so good. Emma Roberts drove me a little bit nuts, if I'm being totally honest. Like, her kind of holier than thou kind of character, just didn't really buy into it. And Dave Franco's Dave Franco at the end of the day. But it was a nice, easy watch. I didn't get too distracted whilst watching it, so would give it a solid 6 out of 10. Would recommend it if you're bored one night and you're flicking through Netflix. It's only an hour and 20 minutes, I think. So yeah, definitely worth giving that one a go. Gonna quickly go through 2 trailers. First one is a new Amazon Prime series which is coming out called The Tick. So here's the trailer.
Hello, world. This is an epic tale, rife with destiny, adventure, blood loss, and good against evil.
Well, look at you.
Impossible.
You're a superhero.
Good eye. I am the Tick.
Bulletproof. What do you bench?
No idea.
Can you fly?
Tick! Good grief. Destiny's on the line, Arthur. Accept the charges.
Is this gonna be a long call? Could I sit?
Sure. How can I put this? Murder. It's just not cool. Impolite! Quite a kick. What the world needs now is us. Sweet us. No. Oh, yes!
Ah, this is the good stuff.
I'm breaking a little bit.
Taser time! Tickle!
2 bullets, point blank, and high voltage, plus a 3-story drop, and look at you. You're as alive as a daisy.
So basically, the premise behind this, from what I can gauge and reading the synopsis, is obviously in an era where we've got superhero movies and stuff coming out of our ears. This is kind of a comedy take on it, clearly from the trailer. It's about an accountant who has no superpowers whatsoever, comes to realise his town's kind of overrun by supervillains. So he kind of takes matters into his own hand, a la Batman, but he's just a bit bonkers and nuts. And yeah, the guy who plays him, I can't pronounce his name, but he's a well-known British actor. He's been in loads of British comedies like Spaced. He was Shaun of the Dead's flatmate in Shaun of the Dead, if that gives you any kind of reference point. But yeah, it looks quite funny. It's kind of got that kick-ass vibe to it, so there's a lot more kind of humour in it than just your standard superhero stuff. So yeah, I'd give it a shout, give it a go. It premieres on Amazon Prime on August 25th. The second trailer we're going to go for is a film called The Dark Tower, starring Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. Sorry. So yeah, I'll be back after the trailer.
For thousands of generations, the gunslingers were knights, sworn to protect us from the coming of the dark.
These visions, as you call them.
What do you see?
I see a tower, the man in black, and the gunslinger.
They're just dreams. They're not real, Jake.
There's another world out there. I know there is. Whoa!
Who are you?
It's you. You're a gunslinger, right?
There are no gunslingers. Not anymore.
Why does the man in black want to destroy the tower?
The tower protects both our worlds. If it falls, hell will be unleashed.
He's like the devil, isn't he?
No, he's worse.
You can't stop what's coming. Death always wins.
Your world might be gone, but mine isn't. If you let that tower fall, billions of people die.
Do they have guns and bullets in your world?
You're gonna like Earth a lot.
All right, let's go.
You clawing your way out of the darkness? Did you tell the kid whoever walks with you dies by my hand?
I will kill him for both of us. I do not aim at my hand. He who aims with his hand has forgotten the face of his father. I aim with my eye. I do not shoot with my hand. I shoot with my mind. Jake! I do not kill with my gun. I kill with my heart.
Okay, apparently this is based on a series of books by Stephen King, which I was unaware of. It looks pretty cool, looks pretty, obviously, kind of sci-fi, horror-y-esque. You're going to be with Stephen King, to be honest. It's kind of hard to describe. Unfortunately, with the podcast, you don't have the visuals of it. But visually, it looks really cool. And to be honest, Idris Elba looks like a badass. Matthew McConaughey looks like an evil motherfucker. And I think that's all you really need to know. Film comes out on August 18th. So it's definitely one I'm going to put on my watch list to go and see. Right, that is it for this week's podcast, folks. As I said, there's not going to be any for 2 weeks as I'm away, but I've got loads of stuff lined up for the future. So, yeah, please keep supporting the show whilst I'm away. And yeah, we've got some really awesome guests lined up in the weeks I'm back, and as mentioned, hopefully going to get some guys from Fluff itself. So yeah, really looking forward to it, and I will be back in a couple of weeks. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining me on the Justin Insight podcast, and I will see you soon.